transphobic YouTuber with perpetually cold feet, Steven Crowder, is getting dunked on over a contract. Now, look, that's normally not the sexiest of topics to talk about, contract disputes, whatever. But no, he decided he was going to bring this up on a show and do like a nearly 30-minute segment about contracts. So let me give you some background here. And now Steven Crowder recently left Glenn Beck's The Blaze Network after about 4 years. And so now he's like launching his own mug, he calls it the Mug Club thing, where he's apparently trying to set up his own network. So in that video, he accused Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire without actually saying their name at first, because, it's Steven Crowder and he's going to be like super weak about it. But yeah, he accused Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire of basically being in bed with quote unquote big tech and helping them stifle conservative voices. Check it out.
Big tech is in bed with big con. The people you thought, the people I thought were fighting for you, a lot of it has been a big con. Now, I'm specifically avoiding naming names or going after individuals in this video because I genuinely hope that those I'm addressing, and you know who you are, have a change of heart. Don't sign these contracts. I now know what you are signing out there. I have the luxury of not having to. Let me go through this. If any of the major platforms issues a content strike such that Crowder cannot be monetized on such platform, the fee will be reduced by 25%. And then another 20% of it happens on Apple. And then another 10% of it happens on Facebook. And then another 10% of it happens on Spotify. And then if you get a strike, meaning a suspension, another 20%. Just to drive it home. You get hit by a car, you have a sick day, you could lose $100,000 a day. This is what's sent out to everybody.
I did not edit that video. That was put out by Steven Crowder. So I didn't touch it. All right. So there it is.
Oh, no!
Oh, no, the big tech is in bed with Big Con. Oh, well, there's a big con going on here. Oh, that's for sure. But, all right. Well, so now, first substantive point. Can contracts be unfair for workers? Yeah, of course. Especially when it comes to media. Yeah, you do have young people that end up signing some pretty terrible contracts that are stacked against content creators. But also, you look at the music industry, it's even more exploitative. So I'm not saying that there isn't a problem here, or that he doesn't bring up, specific concerns of like, hey, don't sign a contract in it, or unless you read it, or unless you have legal counsel. No, that's actually pretty good advice. That said, when it comes to this specific contract, well, we'll get to the details on that. All right. So now in his video, and again, I'm not going to show you the entire half hour because that's ridiculous. We don't have time for that. But Crowder focused on a couple of different parts of the offer. The fact that he would lose money if he had failed to deliver on his contracted episodes. Okay, well, you're hired to do content. It would make sense that you do not get paid if you do not deliver content. Fair. And that his money would be reduced if he was banned from YouTube or other platforms. That's not controversial. Again, if you get yourself banned from like YouTube or Facebook, whatever, and you're not getting revenue, then yeah, why should you get paid for revenue that you're not generating? And by the way, Steven Crowder regularly does homophobic and transphobic and even racist content. Yeah, there's a good chance that he'll get banned, from these platforms. But that said, all this stuff seems pretty, like, okay, explanatory, self-explanatory, like, okay, yeah, standard. But he left out the most relevant part of that contract. And that was what the Daily Wire was actually offering, even with all those stipulations. Now, according to Will Sommer, he was actually offered upwards of $50 million over a 4-year period. Broken down, he would make a yearly salary, that's money going to Steven Crowder, of $12.5 million a year. That's more money than what Anderson Cooper over at CNN makes in a year. $12.5 million. It's insane how much money there is on the right wing. It's just absolutely insane. And this guy's looking at, a $50 million over 4-year contract, $12.5 million a year, and saying, no, terrible. They expect me to work. He's expected to deliver 192 episodes a year. That's, again, 4 per week, at least 4 90-minute programs, episodes. Oh, hell, I do more than that. So it blows my mind how much these chuds get paid. And by the way, what Crowder does, I mean, half the time he's putting on a dress and being super transphobic. That's comedy over in the right wing. And of course, also explains why he's been demonetized on YouTube. Now, that said, he didn't name the Daily Wire. But, some people, and he did it because, of course, beta male, beta. But some people sussed it out, figured it out. And so later on, a day later, the Daily Wire comes out and says, yeah, we're the ones who offered that contract. And by the way, we're not happy with you, Steven, for, being a dick, essentially, and throwing our offer in our face. And by the way, accusing us of working with big tech. And so the Daily Wire's chief executive, Jeremy Boring, published an hour-long response video. And so what he did is, again, he went through that contract line by painful line and essentially pointed out that Steven Crowder didn't read this. Steven Crowder doesn't know what he's talking about. Of course, he did it in a very, very much nicer way. And so the best part, though, is it really when Boring points out that Crowder is not a self-made man, doesn't know anything about business, and likely that's why he didn't understand the contract. In fact, here is part of that video.
But Steven, as much or more than any of them, a very independent voice. But he's not exactly a self-made man. That's not true. He was paid by PJTV when I met him, which was owned by a billionaire at the time. Then he was paid by CRTV for a number of years, which was owned by a billionaire at the time. Then he was paid by The Blaze, which was subsidized by a billionaire, until Tyler Cardon, one of the real genius businessmen in our movement, turned the company around and made it profitable. During all of that time, Steven drove a ton of revenue. He's incredibly valuable. I'm not suggesting that he wasn't driving value. He was. I'm only saying he didn't have to build all of that. He didn't have to think about it. And he didn't necessarily have to be profitable. And he doesn't know for a fact that he was profitable because, as he has said very publicly, all those companies, none of them really shared all the information about what was happening with them. So Steven feels very certain that his show was always profitable, but he doesn't know that his show was profitable. And even if it was, what became of that profit? Most of that profit almost certainly was reinvested into growing the infrastructure and growing the technology and growing the marketing and growing the compliance. That's how business works.
Not a self-made man, doesn't really know how business works, didn't really know even how much or if his channel was even profitable, and by the way, was constantly, funded by billionaires. I mean, that's what it is. And has no idea what he's talking about, no idea what he's doing when it comes to the business sense. In the business part of doing his show. Now, look, Lance of the Surfs talked about this on his stream yesterday, and he put it very, very succinctly. He basically said, It's baby's first contract. What? Wait, was daddy running those things, Steven? Did he finally sit down and read the contract for himself for the very first time? And was like, oh, I have no idea I have no idea what it is, but it sounds bad. It sounds bad. Maybe. Again, doesn't sound like, he's all that much in the know about how this thing actually works. That said, it's hilarious that in that same video that Crowder had put out, he really gave away what he's trying to do. He's trying to create his own network. And he said it in his video. And so, look, the way that I take that is that Steven Crowder does not want to be the person who signs the contracts and works for someone else. He wants to be the guy that issues them. It's his turn to be the boot, essentially. And if you don't think he's going to try to be the boot and exploit other creators, other so-called up-and-coming conservative, voices, whatever, oh, come on. That's what it's about. And look, again, he's in the right that there are terrible contracts, but this one from the Daily Wire actually seemed fairly standard. And again, understandable why the Daily Wire did this, to protect their income if Steven posts things that get them banned. Again, you get banned on Facebook, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever, and you're not going to get money. You're not going to get revenue. Why should the company that you're working for, as a creator, you post something like offensive enough to get your, to get that channel banned? Why shouldn't you pay for it? You got the channel banned. They got no revenue because of you. Because you had to go and post like a super transphobic skit. All they're trying to do is to protect their own business interests. And that makes sense in the case of this contract. But anyway, that said, we heard from Jeremy Boring. Okay. Now let's hear from Ben Shapiro, one of the founders of the Daily Wire. He took a little bit more of a personal tone.
I would just like to take a moment, speaking of big tech and its suppression of free speech, take one moment to comment on a controversy that has broken out because my friend Steven Crowder, been friends with Steven for a long time, like well over a decade now. He put out a video essentially accusing Daily Wire of being in league with big tech. He's accusing us of being in league with big tech because of a term sheet, a negotiable term sheet that we submitted to him that offered to pay him $50 million over 4 years. And included provisions that said that if he got booted from arenas that would lose him ad dollars, since we would also lose the ad dollars, then he would lose money as well. This is typically how contracts work. Stephen interpreted that as somehow misinterpreted. I'll give it the best possible gloss. He somehow misinterpreted that as us attempting to, quote unquote, do the work of YouTube. No. And there is something rather nasty about attacking people who have been friends for over a decade, colleagues, defenders for over a decade, on the basis of your own misinterpretation of a document that offers you $50 million over the course of 4 years.
That's what happens when you have baby's first contract. Has no idea what he's talking about. And Ben Shapiro's like, no. And why are you attacking us? We offered you $50 million. What is wrong with you? Okay. So now, it's really fun how this is all playing out. And I'm pretty sure the drama will continue. And it should not have been public drama, because again, this is a contract negotiation, should have happened behind the scenes. But Steven Crowder decided, no, he's going to go and publicly complain about it while hawking his own network and trying to get people to sign up for his, membership, mug club, whatever, right? So now, that said, other people, well, have kind of chimed in a way. Jordan Peterson. Now, Jordan Peterson originally came out and tweeted support for Steven Crowder. Oh yeah, you take it to those those big tech and big tech censorship. Until he found out that it was Daily Wire. As Will Sommer pointed out on Twitter, someone appears to have gotten to Jordan Peterson because he later on deleted that tweet. Oops. All right. Now, finally, there are the fans. So look, initially when this came out, you looked at a lot of the comments on Steven Crowder's video, and they're like, Steven, take it to big tech. Oh, yeah. And then they find out Daily Wire, and then they find out the details that they had offered him $50 million over 4 years in that contract that seems very standard. And, well, they're starting to turn a little bit. In fact, one commenter says, quote, Steven is being an emotional man.
Beta male.
This contract is literally a normal contract with a way better deal. It was wrong for him to get offended. I'm glad this was made, and this was under Boring's video, because this could have been handled internally with communication. This is literally how business works. Not good on Steven. Thank you so much for transparency, Daily Wire. Another person says, it's always good to hear both stories out. I heard Crowder's at first, and to be honest, off face value, it sounded extreme. But I won't lie and pretend I understand contracts or this business. Well, you have something in common with Steven Crowder then. They continue by saying, as you broke it down, it made sense. Thank you for taking the time to break it down further. All right. Another person says, I saw Crowder's video yesterday. I was extremely appalled and surprised by what he was saying, because I knew he was talking about Daily Wire. I'm not going to lie, it made me really upset how upset he was, because I really like him and agree with him pretty much 99% of the time. So thank you, Daily Wire, for explaining everything and being transparent. I think it's a good thing you made this video, because a lot of people were very frustrated and confused. Somehow that doesn't seem to be a surprise. After watching both videos, another person says, I feel that Steven Crowder flew off the handle a little bit. If this was an initial offering, there is room for negotiation. Steven Crowder should have negotiated in good faith, rather than blowing this whole thing up in public. Kind of crappy they were forced into a public response due to Steven Crowder's immaturity. Matching it with mudslinging in this video wasn't appropriate. Another person says, this actually makes a lot of sense, and he seems to have misinterpreted the contract. I still support his decision to make a network of his own. I wish you both well. And then another person said, I saw Crowder's video and was shocked. This explanation 100% cleared it up. I support you guys in Crowder. Hope you can work it out. Oh, I hope the opposite. But anyway, look, at the end of the day, this is again because Steven Crowder does not know how to read a contract. Baby's first contract. That, and he also decided he wants to be the boot. He wants to take all the profit. Wants to make other people sign probably crappier contracts. Either way, I guess I don't really care as far as that goes. I just want to see him fight. Let him fight. Let him fight.